It's no secret that I have a lot of attachment and reverence to the Yakuza franchise. There's a long list of reasons for that, but I'll save that for another video. But it should come as no surprise that Yakuza 0 would end up on my list of favorite games the minute I got my hands on it. As mentioned in my first episode of First Cut, Yakuza 0 opens the books on the origins of two of the series' most iconic characters, Kiryu Kazuma and Majima Goro, while also fleshing out the history of another important character, Akira Nishikiyama. It's one of the most recent games in the series in the West and also the most advanced in terms of gameplay currently. It takes a step out of the norm by not only letting you play as Majima, who has quickly gained popularity in the West due to this title, but it also lets you choose a fighting style out of 3 to pick from that best suits your tastes, which is a pretty big departure for the series considering where it came from and how little each title changed from game to game. What helps Yakuza 0 stand out from other games in the series, and other games in general, is the amount of love the developers put into the world they created. They succeeded in making 1980s Japan feel like a time where people had more money and time than they had common sense, and somehow managed to ratchet that up to 11. I mean, you've got coins and bills flying out of every thug's face you smash in, for crying out loud. It evokes a refreshing feeling that the developers didn't just work hard on creating this world, but also had fun doing so by adding a level of quirkiness and silliness. Now, that's not to say that the prior games didn't do this, but where Zero shines is in its liberties to go off the rails and not be afraid to do so. The fun cast of characters you meet in side quests are the perfect indication of this. From meeting a dominatrix who sucks at her job, to having a dance-off with a Michael Jackson knockoff. As well as a character that has perhaps the most expansive vocabulary of masturbation euphemisms I've ever seen, who also turns into one of the best side characters in the game, by the way. But it doesn't stop at the characters, as many of the side quests contain subtle and not so subtle references to pop culture in the late 80s from both the East and the West.
しゃあないのう。ああ、一丁景気のやれや。
The story of Yakuza 0 doesn't simply hinge itself on the idea of telling how our two protagonists became Yakuza, but it also tells the story of how the struggles they went through shaped them as individuals. Majima's struggles are centered around the protection of one girl that was originally his hit target to earn his freedom and his path back into the good graces of the Shimano family. This girl would eventually be revealed to have great importance to him and the overall plot of the story. On the other side of this coin, Kiryu's struggles are centered around him being framed for the murder of a man whom he was hired by a loan shark to collect from in a place referred to as the Empty Lot, something that also has great importance to the plot. This murder would eventually shake the very foundation of the Dojima family, with Kiryu being at the center of it all. Watching how our protagonists grow in the face of these odds was something that I found compelling, as these characters have been part of my life in video games for over 12 years now. And the events that unfold show exactly how they've been changed into the people we see in the series from Yakuza 1 onward. It's a story told well enough for even newcomers to the series to find something to hook on to. Now, that's not to say that Yakuza 0 is a flawless experience. There are many aspects about this title that feel very much recycled from the other 5 games in the series thus far. And while the combat is acceptable and many of the heat actions are fun to watch, like the other games, it loses its luster rather quickly as battles become repetitive. This mostly due to the frequent encounters and story-based gauntlets you run through the further you get into each character's story. Heat actions also become less satisfying once you've seen the same ones for the 100th time. Because the game is a port of a once PS3 exclusive title in Japan, it suffers from looking and feeling dated, stuck in the trappings of a series that has evolved perhaps a little too slowly from its PlayStation 2 origins. In many cases like this, the prequel could have just as easily been a simple cash grab for Sega, as the Yakuza franchise is certainly more popular in Japan. But that was not the case, as the game overall fits well within the ranks of the franchise as one of the better stories told in the saga of Kiryu Kazuma, and definitely one of the better video game stories told in the past year, which is why it ranks 5th place in my list of best video games of 2017.
獄の